Progress.
Greetings and welcome to a course on the heart of the Christian faith. This 7-week course is not straightforward. If you look at the diagram, there's an awful lot on there. And that's because the Christian faith, I believe, covers everything that is important in life. So in one sense, the fact that there's only 18 words on that diagram I could have put so much more on the diagram. But anyway, that's what I'm attempting to do, is to look at everything that is important in life in 7 weeks. And they're all interrelated, which means that this course is messy because, well, where do you start? Because if they're all interrelated, the things that we will look at the beginning will reference things that come on later on. However, you've got to start somewhere. So my apologies for any messiness. I couldn't think of a better way of doing this. Incidentally, those of you that are eagle-eyed will notice that there's only 6 major circles on that diagram, and I've said it's a 7-week course. That's because the 7th week is about the church, which is where we ought to experience everything, and there is a church weekend away in the 17th to 19th of October, when we will be looking at being church. Each week of the 6 weeks that are coming up, we will focus on one of the 6 white words and 2 of the black words. And I apologize in advance that I will mention some of the other words before we get to them because they're all interrelated, So I will possibly mention God even this week, even though that's a next week idea. And we're going to start up at the top of the diagram with the Bible and faith and truth. Okay. Some things I believe to be true. I think, so looking at the center of the diagram, love. I think that there is something that is very real and true about what it is to be loved and to love. And some truths that exist in the world are seen to be true in experience. So love is something that primarily you experience, and then you find it to be true. It's in that order. And secondly, that you not only have to experience them, but to understand the truth of them, you have to trust that they're true to find out that they are true. If you are being cynical about the person that's loving you and not trusting the fact that they are all of these signs, you think that there's something false about love, you won't experience the fullness of what it is to love. It seems to be the major truths about life are found in not only experience, but also in stories that embody other people's experiences. Also, not only its prose, but also in poetry. Also, actually, in teachings. And that these are stories, poetry, and teachings that are passed down from the generations where we find things. So fairy stories embody some truths that seem to point to things that are true for all time, and some of the truths seem to be universal and also very deep. And the Bible is a collection of stories, poetry, and teaching that many people believe communicate universal and deep truths. So that's how that top bit of the diagram, I think, holds together. Just to then give you an idea of what I'm talking about in the Bible, I'm going to summarize most of the Old Testament in 5 snapshots. One is the the call of Abraham is God calls him to be blessed and to be a blessing to other people, and I believe that's a universal, that it is something that people have taken on board for themselves, and they've accepted the blessings of God and are blessing other people. Um, second story is Genesis again, is about a family that is incredibly dysfunctional. Uh, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then Joseph, they're all at each other's throats. And yet, the call to be reconciled. It's a marvelous moment where Esau and Jacob, Esau throws himself on the shoulder of his brother in a reconciliation, that Joseph is weeping uncontrollably as he is reconciled. And this is then the great motif of the Bible stories, is a invitation to be reconciled. Moses, leader of Hebrew slaves coming out of slavery, um, and he's an instrument by which God guides and rescues and provides for people, and that seems to be a universal thing that goes on in the world, where I see echoes of that in the end of apartheid in South Africa, where without a phenomenal amount of bloodshed at the time, that Nelson Mandela was a sort of a Moses figure of leading uh, people out of apartheid without doing those things that were done to them in return. They didn't just replace one lot of tyranny with another. Another big issue the Old Testament is, and this predates the Ten Commandments, of just the apple of the Garden of Eden, is God. We have this sense within the Bible of there are things that we know that we ought not to do. We oughtn't to kill people. We oughtn't to steal, to commit adultery, and don't do what you know to be wrong. And in order to do what is right, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. Making the right sacrifices is not straightforward at all. And also, again, back to the Hebrew slaves that come out of Egypt. Doing things better than Egypt is not straightforward. The whole exercise of going into the promised land and trying to set up a nation state that doesn't abuse other people is really difficult. And they failed, and that they were thrown into exile. And that, anyway, those seem to be universal things that the Bible talks about. And trusting the truth of those things about being a blessing, about being reconciled, about receiving the provision of God, and the deliverance from evil, and doing what we know to be right and not doing what we know to be wrong. And these are truths that we can trust to be true and experience, and that is an invitation for us to be truly alive. Three Bible verses to finish with. In the Bible, it says that all Scripture is breathed out by God. There are some writings that seem to be profound and true, and that's why I, for one, read the Bible. Faith is the confidence in what I hope for, so that faith is putting into practice what we hope to be true. And finally, that these truths that are revealed to us just in our own experience and through reading the Bible, that we trust to be true, they then become liberating, and we have life in all its fullness. And that's part one of what it is to have Christian faith. God bless you as you discuss that and think about that.